Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coach's Approach podcast, where we take an inside look at the coaching world. As always, I'm your host, George Gresco. If you don't know me by now, you can check everything out at thecoachesapproach.com. You can find everything you need to know about the Coach's Approach podcast there. You can also follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Speaking of Twitter, real quick, this Thursday night at 8 p.m. and every Thursday night moving forward, we are starting our very own Twitter space where we will discuss topics going on in the coaching world. This week's Twitter space topic is on mental health in sports. So please join us there at Coach's Approach on Twitter. Before we get started, I need to shout out my sponsors. Coach's Dry Rub, the all-American rub, laid on thick until it sticks. Anthony's Family Restaurant in Eastlake on the corner of 91 and Vine Street, where together is our favorite place to be. Open for dine-in, carry-out, and curbside pickup. The Well Bar and Grill in Kirtland. Come on in for some great food and a great time. Last but not least, G&G Printing. Get your custom apparel printed in 7 to 10 days or less. Dominate your design. Today in the coach's booth, we have the defensive coordinator at Golden Gate High School in Naples, Florida, Coach P.J. Gibbs. Coach, welcome to the show.
Coach, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to be on.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you said earlier, you just got out of practice and you're all fired up over there.
Yeah. We're ready to roll. We're ready to roll.
Coach, you have been really involved in USA football and have coached many national teams. Can you talk about a little bit how you got involved in USA football?
Sure. Yeah. A former player of mine back in it's actually my first year coaching back in 2001. A guy by the name of Danny Gant graduated, went to college, got involved with USA football when it was based out of New Jersey. They had an office in Cranberry, New Jersey, actually right by NFL Films. And they started doing regional camps for the national team. And Dan would send, emails out like, "Hey, we're going to start doing these camps. Would you guys be interested?" And then, my head coach at the time, who was actually my linebacker coach in high school, we just started working the camps. And I did that. I did the regional camps in the Northeast for about 6 years and moved to Florida in 2015. And my wife and I were at our rental at the time. This is when our kids were, like 4 and 2. And decided I got an email that said, "Hey," from Aaron Ingram, who's actually an analyst at Ball State now, said, "Hey, you've done," because they review you, like the coaches get reviewed and stuff like that.
Sure.
And Aaron sent me an email and said, "Hey, would you want to be the DB coach for the U15 national team?" And I was like, "Yeah," obviously made sure it was okay with my wife, traveling a week to Texas, and was fortunate enough to be there as part of the national team program from 2016 until 2020, as far as either being a position coach or a head coach. And it's a pretty exciting feeling, to be able to represent your country and coach sport that you love and has got you where you are today in your life.
Absolutely. And Coach, you had the opportunity to coach the International Bowl held at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas. How cool was that experience to coach in a stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play?
It's nothing that I can kind of, I'll try to put it into words, but you literally are in your charter bus and you pull up to the stadium and there's a gate and there's a security guard there. And you drive your charter bus into the basement of AT&T Stadium. That's how big it is underneath. And I think there's like 12 or 16 locker rooms, and they put you in a locker room. And it's kind of funny because when you get on the field and you start coaching, you find yourself looking at the Jumbotron more. The play's happening right in front of you and you're looking up at the Jumbotron, but everything's going on right here, but you're just mesmerized by this thing. And it's a pretty neat, it's an indescribable experience, really. You're at one of the best facilities, in the United States, if not the world. And, it's just, I can't say enough about the first class organization that I got a chance to work for, representing the great game of football in the United States.
Absolutely. And Coach, in 2020, you were the head coach of a U17 Japanese team. What was that experience like?
Well, I had actually been in 2017. I was the defensive backs coach for the Japanese team, and I knew that it was funny. In 2020, when I went to go meet the team at the airport, first guy off the plane was the receivers coach I hadn't seen in 3 years, and Coach O and I recognized each other, and we went up and obviously embraced each other, and we're asking how everybody was doing, and it was pretty cool for a couple of reasons. One is I got to choose my staff, and I got six guys to choose, and I got to pick guys that like my high school position coach, guys that played for my head coach in high school that kind of mentored me growing up as a young coach, and kind of giving back to them for helping me get to that point. So that was really cool. And like I told them, I said, guys, listen, this is going to be the easiest week of practice in your life. I mean, the kids literally apologize for mistakes.
Right.
And there's a little bit of a language barrier, but they bring like 4 different coaches to learn from us, who are also your translators in your position groups.
Sure.
And yeah, it's neat, man. It's and obviously, winning the game, I was so happy. As a coach, you're a competitor, you want to win.
Sure.
But I was
Absolutely.
so happy for those kids. I mean, they flew, a 12-hour flight. We had sent our playbooks in December, offensively and defensively. Once I got my staff confirmed, those dudes were studying the playbook since mid-December.
Right.
And because the thing is, you only have like 6 practices. Once you land in Texas, you only have 6 practices.
Wow,
And,
that's not a whole lot to get offense,
No.
defense, and everything in.
No, so you really have to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So I think the way we prepared, kind of set us apart a little bit. I mean, that U.S. team had a kid by the name of Chris Parsons, who's committed to Florida State as a quarterback. The other quarterback was a kid by the name of Jake Strong, who's going to Texas Tech.
Wow.
They got 3 Division I linemen, 2 Division I wideouts. I mean, we just kind of caught lightning in a bottle. We played a defense that we weren't going to play in the scrimmage, and then we broke out the Iowa State 3 high stuff and kind of threw a little curveball at them. But when you're overmatched size wise, and you got to kind of pull out as much as you can, and and we the kids played well, and we ended up winning. And those kids, the one thing I could say is, for the rest of their lives, nobody could take that away from them. They could tell their grandkids about that they went to America, played in Cowboy Stadium, and beat the U17 national team. And that's what makes me the most proud, is that those kids were able to do that.
Absolutely. That's a story they're going to tell for a lifetime, Coach.
Yeah. Yep.
Also in 2020 was an eventful year for you, because you were the Nike Coach of the Year presenter. What all did that entail, being the presenter for that?
They kind of reach out, just to get an email here and there. And I got an email from the speaker acquisition young lady. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she was like, "Are you interested in speaking?" And I'm like, "Sure, absolutely." And she's like, "Well, can you do 2 talks? And they take care of your hotel room." And I just drove up there, because it's a 3-hour drive, from Naples to Orlando. And it was pretty neat. Kind of neat and kind of nerve-wracking at the same time, because I had to present right before Coach Saban. And I turn around and the room is filled, and I know it's not all for me, because I know who's coming up after me. So people were just kind of getting in their seats.
Yeah.
But I got to speak with him for a few minutes afterwards, and the guy's the best college football coach in history of college football. So and me as a defensive guy, even more so, how cool that was for me. And it's a very great opportunity, because you get recognized by your peers, and guys are, and again, I'm open to sharing anything with anyone. I'm not one of those guys that's going to be like, "No, you can't." I mean, I'll come and install the defense if you want me to,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's, that was cool. So I spoke about stopping the triple option, and I talked about our simulated pressures and our 3 high stuff at the Nike play.
That's got to be such a cool experience. You speak right before Nick Saban. How cool is that? Like,
yeah, like I said, it's cool, but it's also nerve-wracking, because his GA was there with the laptop getting ready to get up there, and he's standing there, and I'm kind of like, okay, do I kind of stop now or do I keep going, you know? But it was neat. It was neat. I mean, great guy. And, I'm happy. I'm happy that I got a chance to do that.
That's a cool experience. Now, Coach, let's take it back to 1997 through 2000. You attended St. Peter's College, where you played linebacker for the Peacocks.
Yeah.
What made you choose St. Peter's College? Like, when you're going through that interview recruiting process, what makes you choose St. Peter's College?
Coach, to be honest with you, I grew up as a Michigan fan. Obviously, God had other plans for me. I grew to about 5'8".
Go blue, baby.
Yeah,
I'm a Michigan fan. I live in Ohio, so I get crap all the time.
I'm sure you get a little bit of grief, but that's okay. But obviously, I wasn't going to be able to run out there at the big house. So the next closest thing to the winged helmet around me was Delaware, and Tubby Raymond was the coach at the time. And I went down for a visit with my folks, and they were going to offer me a preferred walk-on. And, we kind of went on our visit and did that. And then a guy by the name of Sean Powers came into Manasquan High School, where I went, and he was recruiting for St. Peter's. They're a MAC conference team. And, I had pretty decent grades. I wasn't a straight A student by any means, but, I was like B's and C's. And, he was like, would you, we would like your film, and would you want to come on a visit? And so I go on a visit and get all the financial paperwork done. And, I ended up getting like a 3-quarter scholarship. So sitting in my kitchen with my dad and my mom, and my dad's like, listen, he goes, if you go to Delaware, you're going to have student loans probably you're 40, 45. If you go to St. Peter's, you're in state, but also you're closer to home, and we can help you, pretty significantly. So that was kind of my choice, was to go there. And, we started out. It was funny because in high school, we went, my senior class, we went 32-4.
Oh, wow.
In 4 years.
That's not too shabby.
No, we like I said, we were very well coached. We were to be honest with you, we had a couple good players, but for the most part, we were just very coachable, and sure. we had a great coaching staff, and got us very well prepared. And it was so my freshman year, we go 1-10. And then we go 0-11, and then they got rid of that staff, and then they brought in a guy by the name of Rob Stern from down the street at Hudson Catholic High School, and we were 9-2 my junior year, and then the senior year we were 10-2, number 1 defense in the country in FCS. So but it was cool. I still stay in touch. It's funny, a lot of the guys that I play with are coaching high school. Right. One's a head coach in Connecticut, another's a defensive coordinator in New Jersey, one's an offensive line coach out on Long Island, one's a quarterback coach down in South Jersey. So guys have still, been around the game. And, so like I said, it's been pretty cool. And then obviously, with the NCAA basketball tournament, everything was blowing up because, they were shocking the world. And I was getting text messages of guys wanting me to fly up to Philly, because we're playing. And, I couldn't convince my wife to let me do that because I'd been on 2 spring ball trips, and she probably would have told me to stay up in Philadelphia and not come back. So I just watched it from our house.
Too funny. Coach, you've coached at many different high schools. You've been a head coach, you've been a defensive coordinator, you've coached defensive backs. You're also a recruiting coordinator. With all that experience under your belt, what would you say is the most special thing about high school football?
I think it's something that it's life lessons. I think more so than ever, especially with this generation, we need high school football. A lot of these kids are going home to nobody, going home to a grandmother, going home to be a parent because the parent's working. They're working shift work. They're cleaning banks. They're working late night, overnight, whatever they need to do to pay the rent. It really teaches you accountability and discipline. And really, I think one of the biggest things of lost art today in our society really is honesty, especially in football. People want to hear what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And that's probably, like if you ask people about me, there's no gray area. They either like me or they don't. I mean, I don't care. As long as my wife and my kids love me, I'm good. So I think it's life lessons is what's make this the most special and the greatest game in the world, because I don't think anywhere else, especially with a lot of stuff that happened a couple of years ago. When you think about a huddle on a football field, it doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity. Everybody's working towards a common goal, and that teaches those kids to, at some point, even if they're entrepreneurs, they're going to have to work with people. And I think more so than ever that our society needs that, and they need to stop listening to people that tell them what they want to hear as opposed to what they need to hear.
Absolutely.
And,
and I was actually asked that question a few months ago. That's why I kind of put it in here. And my answer was the exact same. Your life lessons and your relationships. That's what makes high school football the greatest sport. And I'll argue that to the day I die. It's just, there's nothing greater than high school football.
No doubt.
Coach, as you mentioned earlier that you spoke before Urban Meyer, you've taken pictures with some of the all-time greats. Urban Meyer, you have a picture with Jim Harbaugh that you sent me. But Coach, who would you say is your favorite coach of all time?
Man, can I say two?
Yeah, absolutely.
My high school coach, Vic Caboo, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for him. Taught me a ton as a coach, as a husband, as a father. It's funny, growing up in the town we grew up in, I'm sorry for getting emotional because coach has been gone since 2007. Growing up in the town we grew up in, it was a generation. We were like Varsity Blues, minus the tweeter and all that other,
right.
But you aspire to be like him. He had such a big influence, and you can get hundreds of guys from our town that played for him. He was the head coach. He went to high school there. Actually went to high school with my aunt, my mom's oldest sister, and became a defensive coordinator at another high school, was a head coach at Middletown North, and then came back to Manasquan in 1985 and was there until he died in 2007 and won 11 state championships, over 20 conference titles. But with him, it was, he taught you about life. He taught you how to prepare. He taught you that football is going to take funny bounces sometimes, but you have to be ready to handle it. And not everything is always going to work out your way. And it's really, how do you handle that from the perspective of, becoming a husband and a father. So for him, that he'd be number one. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, Belichick and Parcells are probably a tie at two for me, because I grew up in New Jersey during the 86-90 Giants. That was my wheelhouse. So my first football game, I was 7 years old. So funny story. My first football game, I was 7 years old. We went to the Giants Chargers, the first Gatorade shower on Parcells in 86. I was 7. This past spring, my son, who's 7, he just turned 8. We got to drive over to Palm Beach and meet Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, how cool is that?
So for me to bring him to go meet LT, that was kind of like full circle for me. So I would say Coach Caboo, and then Parcells and Belichick, because we're very Belichickian in the way we do things as a program and defensively.
No, that doesn't get much better than that, man. Yeah. How cool. Coach, you're currently coaching at Golden Gate High School in Naples, Florida. You were an assistant you are an assistant head coach there. You're the defensive coordinator and you're the recruiting coordinator. But I kind of want to talk about the recruiting coordinator position side of things. What all does being the recruiting coordinator entail? Because I know the recruiting coordinator has all kinds of different jobs, especially in today's world, because kids are just trying to get into colleges, and the recruiting process is a different animal right now. But what all does that entail for you?
Well, basically it's contacting the coaches. I've built a lot of relationships over 23 years in coaching, and, guys move. A perfect example, I've known Coach Don Brown for over 20 years. I met him when I was a 23-year-old young linebacker coach at Manasquan High School. And Coach was at UMass the first time, and then he was at Northeastern when they still had football up there. And Coach has been at, Maryland, BC, UConn, Michigan, Arizona. Now he's back at UMass. And we actually played golf a couple weeks ago together. He has a house down here in Naples. And it's just contacting the coaches, handling the social media. We do things. And again, you see other coaches do stuff and you look at it and you say, hey, we can do that and we'll kind of mesh things together. So one of the things I really like about what we do is, from the recruiting perspective, is we have social media, and I'm sure you've seen it on my social medias. We have an edit made with the kids. We had a template made up by our social media guy, kids picture taken, all their vital information. And a couple guys like Justin Grandinetti, who's at Jack Britt High School in North Carolina, is a real good buddy of mine. They started putting QR codes for the huddle link. So I said, listen, let's do that. And every coach that comes in, I ask them, like, do you guys like that? And they're like, Coach, we love it because it's right at our fingertips. I'm not a big prospect sheet guy anymore, because a lot of these prospect sheet guys will not end up playing. I'm not going to waste my time on someone that's not going to give us their full effort. So when we meet with the seniors and juniors and sophomores and say, listen, who wants to play college football? And then we'll sit down and say, okay, we got to get an edit made up for this kid, and we got to get an edit made up for this kid. And but they said it's been great as far as, that convenience and things like that. So that getting the word out on them and just really helping out other coaches in the area too. It's like today, like we've been so busy the last couple of days. Kansas, Iowa State, Bryant, Lehigh, West Florida today, Purdue, Temple, UMass is coming tomorrow. Buffalo is coming tomorrow. We're going to have 20 something colleges in this week.
Right.
But it's letting them know about other kids in the area, like just not about our kids.
Sure.
Just let us know, let me tell you about other kids in the area so I can help them out as well. So that's kind of really all it entails. And just like when you obviously now we're back to in clinic. Or like I spoke at the AFCA in January on our recruiting and things like that. So like I said, it's cool, man, because you get to meet great people and you get to help these kids out, and really it's something that you take pride in, because it's letting the kids know that how important your grades are, how important it is to take care of your body, how important it is to, practice hard. And because I said, you never know who's going to show up today. Like we had West Florida, they're D2 national champs 2 years ago, so I said, guys, listen, you never know who's going to show up. Sometimes I don't know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just a really cool deal, man. I'm really happy that I've been doing it for a long time, and it's really neat. It's very rewarding to help kids realize their dream of playing college football.
No, absolutely. And that's always the step, is what's life like after high school football? What's the next step? So that's always a very cool thing when you see those kids move forward. Coach, you played linebacker in college, and now you're a defensive coordinator. Did you always want to be on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah. I did so I played linebacker in high school, played linebacker in college. I started out coaching on the defensive side of the ball. I student taught for my linebacker coach when I came out of college. And then eventually down the road, when he became the head coach, he made me the defensive coordinator at our high school. So I've always been involved on the defensive side of the ball. And it's just something that, offensively, I don't mind it. I love watching Coastal Carolina's offense. I love watching, I love watching all that stuff. But yeah, I really love stuff that Don does. Brent Venables, we went up to Clemson a couple of years ago. If that dude wasn't a football coach, he would be building rockets. He's one of the smartest individuals that I've ever been around in my life. And Coach Minner at Michigan, we got to visit with him. Patrick Toney at Florida, I'm telling you, that dude's going to be a head coach someday. We went up there for their coaches clinic. Man, that guy he's a dude. So you just, and what the one thing I really like about the defense side of the ball, and not that the offensive coaches at college are any different, but they're just down to earth guy. Like I can remember a couple of years ago, we're getting ready to face a lot of power read stuff, and I really wanted the good pressure. So I text Coach Brown, who was at Michigan at the time. And he's like, he's a big bro guy. He's like, bro, give me 2 minutes. Literally. 2 minutes. 2 minutes later, my phone dings and it's a picture of the whiteboard in his office. He goes, run this. Ran it, shut it down. But like it's guys like that you kind of cling yourself to. And to be honest with you, a lot of the guys I come across in the recruiting end are just down to earth guys, you know, and they you know, they love doing what they do. And you know, I'm just, like I said, I'm just happy I'm able to do it, man. Defense, it just like intensity and passion. And you know, we have this black shirt defense mantra that the kids just cling on to, because it's like, we know, what do you need to do to be a black shirt? And we lay out the commandments, and the kids kids that do it love it. The kids that don't, go play offense. You know, I don't have time. I told them the other day at practice, I don't have time. If you don't want to do this stuff, these 3 things, we'll give you a gold jersey. You go catch the ball, or stand there and hold a bag. Like we don't have time.
I love it. Coach, as a defensive coordinator, I'm sure you have certain goals that you want your players to meet or your defense to meet. But what are the certain goals that you have for each game for your defense as a unit? Do you have goals for each game, or season goals, or anything like that?
We'll have, we're going to have a goal board made up. We'll have about 12 goals per game. You know, obviously, you know, we want it really, if we can hold the team to 14 points or under, we should be in a pretty good position to win.
Absolutely.
You know,
your offense better score at least 14 points. If you hold them to 14 points, they better.
Right. Especially with the athletes we have. You're right. And then, you know, hold them under 3 yards a carry, limit the defensive penalties, hold them to under 100 yards passing, create three or turnovers more. We have a thing where we say S plus T minus X equals win. So sacks plus turnovers minus explosive plays will help us equal to a W. And you can define explosive play however you want. Like we're 15 yards or more as an explosive play. So we want to limit the plays of 15 yards or more, because now, you know, if you give a high school offense the ball in the 20, they got to go 80 yards. There's a good chance something's going wrong. Whether it's they're going to have penalties, they're going to turn the ball over, we're going to force them to punt, get the offensive ball back, we know, whatever. But I think those things, if you can stop the run, if you can limit the explosive plays, if you can create, you know, I got this name Coach Brown called havoc rate. And it's basically, it's a formula. I don't have it with me right now because I have it on my computer at school. Sure. But our 2020 defense at Palmetto Ridge had a havoc rate of like 62%. So that means 62% of the snaps that season, we were creating some type of sack or turnover or negative play.
I like that, Coach.
Yeah. It was, you know, listen, when you have great players, it makes you look like you know what you're doing as a coach. You have 4 all-state kids on your defense, that it makes it look like you know what you're doing.
Right. It makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
As we're talking about goals, Coach, what are some goals in your coaching career that you kind of want to hit?
I mean, I've been fortunate enough to do a lot, man. I mean, I've been wanting to be a head coach since I was 14 years old. I did that last year at East, and left the place better than we found it. Hadn't won a game in 3 years. We won 4 last year. My OC took over, which I was really happy about that he got his opportunity. He was a young guy that was up and coming. He'll do a great job there. And, you know, getting to coach at AT&T Stadium, winning international bowls, winning state championships, conference championships, you know, coming down to Florida and winning a district title and then a conference championship, having the #1 defense in the area. That's all good stuff. I'm really happy with, you know, seeing kids, you know, after the fact. Like, I got former players that'll come down from New Jersey to watch a game in Florida. I have two former players of mine just signed free agent contracts with one with the Raiders, the other with the Packers. Wow. You know, and there'll be a couple more. I got a couple more kids that I've coached in college. You know, but I think it's seeing the guys grow up, and when they're done playing football, you know, them coming up to me and saying, "Hey, man, Coach, I remember when this halftime speech," and I still remember it every day. I have a former player of mine. The kid's name is Blaine Burch, played for me at Manasquan High School. Blaine's actually coming down in the next week or so. And he recorded all my pregame speeches as a defensive coordinator in his 4 years. And cool. he listens to them all the time. He tells me. So that's neat stuff, man. I mean, if you can make a lasting impression on kids and make them better people, I mean, the championships are great. All that stuff is great, but you coach great kids and you see them succeed. Like I coached Cade Klubnik, who's going to probably end up starting at Clemson this year as a quarterback. He was at Westlake High School for once 3 state championships. I actually went out and saw him in the Army All-American Bowl, and
cool.
We're going to hopefully drive up and see him play this year at Clemson. So, but I mean, just being able to be a piece of their life and impact them in a certain way, man, that's why we do it. That's why that's what it's up. And I think people lose sight of that. I think there's people that will tell you that they're doing it for that reason, but they're doing it for themselves or for whatever reason, but listen, at the end of the day, man, I can look myself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm in it for the right reasons. So let's just keep rolling.
Absolutely. Coach, we have hit the point in the show where we do rapid fire 7, where I will ask you 7 rapid fire, very random questions.
Speed round.
To answer them as fast as possible.
Okay.
So, Coach, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees?
Jason Voorhees.
A grandfather clock or a cuckoo clock?
Grandfather clock.
Forced fumble or interception?
Oh, forced fumble.
Goal line stand or pick 6?
Goal line stand.
Which state has the best high school football?
Man, I'm going to say Texas.
Would you rather have a long putt or a very long drive?
Long drive.
Boxers or briefs?
Briefs.
I love that part of the show. It's funny. It's hilarious. My dad helps me with some of these random questions.
That's cool, man. I like that.
Coach, as we near the end of the show, I always ask this question to all the coaches I have on the show. Who is Coach Gibbs for the listeners and viewers who might not know you? Who is Coach P.J. Gibbs?
I think he's a guy that grew up in a small beach town and happened to find his way to Naples, Florida, and on the wings of football, and is a dedicated husband and father to a great wife and 2 great kids, and likes to be able to help young people every day in whatever way that is, whether that's being a mentor, coach. We wear many hats, and it's a new opportunity to be great every day. And I tell our guys it's easy to wake up and be average. But if people with me, I'm going to wake up and try to find some way to be great, and I'm not going to get outworked. So that's I guess the best way to describe me.
Oh, man, that's a great answer. Dedicated in what you do. I like it, Coach. Coach, I appreciate your time and spend some time with me, and I really appreciate you coming on and talking the game of football and your career. So I appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate having me, Coach. And yeah, like I said, it's a good day when you can talk some football with some good people and try to help out as many coaches as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. They've been great liking and sharing all of our content. But once again, I wanted to mention this Thursday night at 8 p.m. For our Twitter space. It's our first, and we're going to do it every Thursday night at 8 p.m. But this May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So the discussion is on mental health in sports. So any coaches that want to come on the Twitter space Thursday night at 8 p.m. more than welcome. I'll share the link on the Coaches Approach social media. But that's going to do it for today's episode of the Coaches Approach podcast. As always, I'm your host, George Gresko, and we'll see you guys next time.